Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone, show number 103 for the 8th of October 2010. Richard Saunders here with you, together with Dr. Rachael. Hi, Dr. Rachael.
Hi, Richard. How are you?
I'm fine, and our favourite bastard sheep.
G'day, everyone.
And we're doing the intro because we're actually getting ready to do today's think tank. But I thought I'd slip in the intro while we're here, and we've just finished a lovely Chinese dinner. Hey, Rachael, it's the 8th of October. John Lennon would have been 70.
That's right, he would have been. And I see that Google have changed their livery or their logo today, Richard, in honour of John Lennon.
Wow, 70, that's amazing.
It is. You're a big fan of the Beatles, aren't you, Richard?
Sure, yeah. I certainly am. And I saw the other day that Julian Lennon was in the news because he's just opened up an exhibition of his photography.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he says it's really good because he's not being compared to his dad.
What's Sean Lennon up to these days?
He's a muso.
Is he still playing around? Okay, yeah.
How time flies. On today's episode of the Skeptic Zone, as you heard before, we'll be having the think tank, which we'll be doing shortly. But before then, we've got an interview that you did, Dr. Rachael.
Yeah, we've got an interview with Simon Singh, which I did at TAM 8, which was a couple of months back now, where Simon gives us sort of a final wrap-up of what happened with the BCA, British Chiropractic Association libel case, which, as most listeners would know, was dropped some time ago now. But he fills us in about what was involved in that and also how much money it cost, Richard. Because one of the things that libel in the UK has been most criticised for is the expense. I think it's something like 3 times the cost of anywhere else in Europe, which is why you get this thing called libel tourism, where people deliberately sue you in the UK courts because they can get a lot more money, and that makes things even more difficult for people being accused of libel. So he tells us about that and also gives us an update on what's happening with the campaign to change libel laws in the UK.
Fantastic. We'll play that interview in just a moment. And after that, we've got a short report from the new pub, Skeptics in the pub in Sydney, and Bastard Sheep, you were there.
Yeah, it was a great night. Fantastic venue.
Yeah, a great venue we have, and there's a short report coming up about that. And, of course, at the end of the show, we'll have the think tank. So, sit back, enjoy that Diet Coke, and enjoy this episode of the Skeptic Zone.
Here we are at TAM 8 and I'm with Simon Singh. Hello, Simon Singh. Good morning.
Sorry, good morning. I just finished my pastry.
It's a bit early this morning, isn't it? We're here at, 7:40 a.m. on Saturday in Las Vegas.
But, I mean, the crazy thing is that the day is so packed, it's so relentless with so many good things happening, that if you want to actually sit down with somebody and have a chat, you've either got to do it very early in the morning or very late in the day, which is a good thing. But it just shows what a jam-packed event this is.
Yeah. Well, today is the keynote lecture, which is Richard Dawkins this afternoon. And of course, there's a whole lot of stuff going on today, so it should be fun, as it has been for the whole conference. Yeah.
Yeah, this is only my second TAM. Second TAM in America. I think I was on a book tour a few years ago. Richard Wiseman was here and said, look, you should really swing by this event. You've got no idea how extraordinary it is. And it was fantastic. It was just an amazing event to be at. And I haven't been back for 3 or 4 years, but I was at TAM London last year, and I'm looking forward to TAM Australia later this year. And most of all, I think it's really nice to come here this year and tell people a happy story, which is the fact that the libel case is over. And I'm not so sure I won, but I certainly didn't lose. And the fact that so many people in the room not only followed the case, but actively supported it and actively spread the word and some of them took apart some of the arguments of the opposition, or some of them donated to libel reform campaigns and so on. It was just a lovely opportunity. And also just to thank James Randi and Phil Plait. I remember there was a point when things looked really bad, May 2009, and James Randi and Phil Plait sent an email and said, look, we've got your back. That was just great to have the knowledge of such solid support from people who you have enormous respect for.
Yeah, it was amazing, wasn't it? I mean, after all that, the BCA, of course, for listeners who don't know the background, basically the British Chiropractic Association sued you for libel because you wrote a piece in The Guardian saying that some of their treatments were bogus. And then after it went to trial, well, did it go to trial? It didn't.
Well, it started. We had a preliminary hearing, which I suppose is part of the trial process. We lost that preliminary hearing because it was over the meaning of the article.
Yeah, that was what was so bizarre about it.
It was interesting. You said it was over the fact that I called their treatments bogus, and it sounds a bit harsh when you say it like that. Now, bogus can mean lots of different things, and they were asserting that by calling their treatments bogus, I was calling them I was accusing them of out-and-out dishonesty.
Yeah, knowingly.
Yeah,
promoting
promoting
treatments that were bogus.
And I didn't say they knowingly promote. I said they happily promote.
Yeah.
Now, happily for me in that context meant innocently, blithely, thoughtlessly, all sorts of different possibilities. And bogus just meant ineffective. And I think earlier on in the article, the context makes it clear, because earlier on in the article I call chiropractors wacky. Wacky people aren't dishonest, they're just eccentric.
Yeah.
I call chiropractors, I call them fundamentalists. Fundamentalists are the exact opposite of dishonest. They're so blinkered to their view, they can only be honest. They're wrong, perhaps. Yeah. But that meaning went against me. The judge sided with them, and that's the point when I think the skeptical community really rallied round it, and also in Australia, of course, fantastic support from people in the skeptic movement, from journalists, from scientists. It was just overwhelming to know that the whole world that cared about science and rationalism was supporting me, and free speech, of course.
Well, you know that we had a complaint submitted against us, the Australian Skeptics, because we republished your article on our website, because there was a campaign where everyone republished it on a particular day across the world, and a chiropractor submitted a complaint to the Healthcare Complaints Commission in Australia against us because we republished it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was thrown out because it was furious.
And essentially you published the article, I guess, because you believed in free speech.
Yeah.
And here was somebody that was complaining about the fact you were sort of speaking up for free speech. There were so many twists and turns. I'd forgotten that completely, but you're absolutely right. There's a chap called David Allen Green,
Jack of Kent,
the blogger, who's currently putting together some ideas for a book on the whole, not just my case, but other libel cases and libel reform and free speech in England. And those little stories, hopefully, someone will remember to tell him, because it was those little twists and turns and those contributions from around the world that made a difference.
Well, he's got a Facebook page called "If I Finally Write This Book, Will You Buy It?"
Right.
So I think it's going to be called Bad Law, so you can join that page. So tell me about the fallout now. So basically the BCA pulled out of the case, didn't they?
Yeah, they discontinued proceedings, which essentially means that they're now liable for all of the costs. So the one thing we're doing now, in wrapping things up, is they owe me my costs. We're tallying up the bill, which we reckon now comes to about, my legal costs we think come to around £250,000.
Wow.
I hadn't quite realised how much it was, but finally got all the bills in. And they now have to pay me my costs, but they will undoubtedly argue over every point that we made, every expense we incurred. And typically what happens is a successful person in a case like this gets back about 80% of their money, which sounds pretty good. except it means you lose 20%.
Yeah.
And 20% of £250,000.
It's not a small amount.
Phenomenal amount of money. It's very painful. But so we'll see. Hopefully we'll settle it fairly quickly. If we don't settle it, then we have to go to cost court, and the whole process starts again. So, that's not the important thing. The important thing is that chiropractors now seem to be reassessing what they do. There are very active debates within the community.
This is the interesting thing, because I can't remember the name of the person. I mean, you're talking about the twists and turns of this case, and there was, I can't remember the guy's name, but who went through all of the chiropractors in the whole of the UK and complained about every single one that was making spurious claims. And so basically, the entire profession was put into the spotlight. And I guess it was a Streisand effect in that sense, wasn't it? Because they were completely exposed for what they're doing.
I think there was a Streisand effect from the sort of thing you were doing by republishing the article. I should stress, I think the article was very slightly edited, so the key points were still being made, but I think they were fairly cast iron. So that was great to spread the word. Then there was greater scrutiny applied to chiropractors. Yeah. So the BMJ ran a big debate piece.
Did they?
Yeah, the editor of the BMJ concluded by saying, I see the chiropractors' argument, I see the skeptics' argument put forward by Professor Edzard Ernst, and to me, Edzard Ernst's demolition of the chiropractors' references is, to my mind, complete. And the BMJ goes out to doctors and researchers and so on.
It's the British Medical Journal.
Yeah, the British Medical Journal. Yeah. So that again, that was great. And then skeptics in Britain, people I think like Chris French, Simon Perry certainly, Alan Hennis very much involved, started searching chiropractic websites. And if they made claims like trying to treat colic, now the Advertising Standards Authority in England have said that chiropractors cannot make that claim because it's not backed up by evidence.
Yeah.
Now, the General Chiropractic Council, which runs the whole business, says that if the Advertising Standards Authority says something shouldn't be advertised, then we wholeheartedly back that. So they sort of drew up their standards based on the advertising standards. And therefore, all of these chiropractors, sort of 600, who were claiming to treat colic, complaints were made directly to the General Chiropractic Council, and they now all have to be investigated.
Yeah.
And so 1 in 4 chiropractors in Britain is now being investigated for allegedly misleading complaints, and for allegedly misleading claims to treat certain conditions. And
I heard that they actually have had to put on more staff to deal with the complaints or something.
Yes, I think 6 more staff, and everyone has to be checked. Letters have to be sent out to the chiropractors. Chiropractors have to respond with a defence. Probably have to go to the Professional Conduct Committee. And you just think, well, I mean, somebody called it a witch hunt. A chiropractor in a blog said this is a witch hunt. And to me, it is members of society saying, this to me looks unscientific, not evidence-based, and I'm within my rights to submit a complaint. And instead of calling this a witch hunt, chiropractors should be saying, how on earth has this been going on for 10 or 20 years without somebody actually noticing that we're making... Because there are a lot of really good chiropractors. But let me rephrase that. There are chiropractors who know what their limits are.
Yeah, which is back manipulation. And
spinal manipulation to treat lower back problems. Now, a lot of people think the evidence is very weak. A lot of people say, well, even if the evidence is weak, back problems are very hard to treat, therefore everybody does badly, chiropractors do as well or as badly as anybody else.
Yeah, that's...
So there are some chiropractors who say, we deal with the spine, we fix the spine, that's what the limit of our practice is. And I think they, in a way, could have been speaking out 5 or 10 years ago against their colleagues who were making wilder claims.
But you know what's really interesting about that, Simon, is that you generally find with people that don't have evidence, when they're challenged, they respond with either ad hominem attacks, abuse, or some other lawsuits, right? Now, the McTimoney chiropractors sent out that incredible email, which somebody found, to all of their members saying, take your websites down, remove any reference to this now, don't discuss this with your patients, all in super caps lock capital letters. I mean, it was...
Yeah, it was a frightening time to be a chiropractor.
Yeah.
So, I wasn't involved with the series of complaints, so I'm not fully up to speed with what happened or where the situation is right now. But my recollection is that the bulk of the complaints were focused on the British Chiropractic Association's members, because they're the biggest body and they'd sort of put their head above the parapet, perhaps. So I don't know whether complaints were being made against McTimoney chiropractors, but they certainly felt that they might be in the firing line. So as you say, they just said, for God's sake, batten down the hatches, take down any claims, because if we have to investigate all of our own members, again, it's going to cost them a huge amount of money and a huge amount of embarrassment.
Yeah. I mean, we had a little bit of sort of follow-up in Australia. We have some media that did a very good story, actually, on chiropractors in Australia who were making similar claims. But we haven't had nearly the sort of exposure that the BCA has had. But, yeah, the whole profession, as you say, has now been called into question, hasn't it, really?
Yeah.
So.
No, and I think what the complaints have shown is that there is a system that you can use. As skeptics, we sometimes like to conduct our own investigations. I conducted an investigation with Sense About Science about homeopaths who were claiming to treat malaria. And you kind of you think of an idea and you do your investigation, you try and get publicity for it, or you blog about it, or you try and write articles about it to highlight the problem or educate the public and so on. But the other approach is to work within the system. And the thing about chiropractors is that, unlike homeopaths in Britain are not recognised as a profession. So I could go back to London tomorrow and call myself a homeopath. Nobody could stop that. I couldn't call myself a chiropractor because it's a regulated profession with a protected title. And because of that, there is a General Chiropractic Council which tries to enforce standards. Now,
So there's nothing like a homeopath association?
There are associations, but there's the Society of Homeopaths, there's the Faculty of Homeopaths, there's probably the Scottish Society of Homeopaths, there's I don't know, there are all sorts of different societies with all their different rules. And they make up their rules to police their own members, and the quality of those rules, the scope of those rules, how well they're implemented, depends on the society. But with the General Chiropractic Council, because they've been set up by government, because government has recognised chiropractors, they have a very strict obligation to enforce those rules. And if they don't, then the General Chiropractic Council could be reported to the Privy Council. That's my understanding of it. So where these bodies exist that have an obligation to implement rules and regulations, skeptics can use that. Similarly, one of the things I did a few years ago that got me interested in alternative medicine, that's my real interest in physics and maths and pure science and so on, but one of the things that got me interested was a BBC programme about acupuncture, which the long and short of it was that there was a scene at the beginning that was deeply misleading. It showed a woman having major heart surgery, and it gave the impression that this woman wasn't having general anaesthetic, but was having acupuncture instead. And that was true. She didn't have general anaesthetic, she did have acupuncture, she was having major heart surgery, but in addition to the acupuncture, she was having 3 of the most powerful sedatives known to mankind.
They didn't mention that?
Not really, no. Large volumes of local anaesthetic. So there was a slightly cryptic sentence much later on in the documentary, which I asked reporters and reviewers, and nobody picked up on it, and everybody had this impression that it was a miraculous operation in a way, which showed the miraculous power of acupuncture. I knew that was wrong, and I think I, like many other people, tend to just moan about it. And, I'd moan to people and complain. And, I thought I'll go a bit further. I'll ring up the programme makers. They weren't really interested in discussing it.
I'm not surprised.
So then I wrote an article for The Guardian. I think I wrote an article for The Telegraph first. And then I learned a bit more about the programme, so I wrote another article for The Guardian. So first The Telegraph, then The Guardian. But still, nobody was listening. This wasn't getting anywhere. And so I said, well, there's a system. You can complain to the BBC Trust in Britain, or the BBC complaints process. For other programs, you can complain to something called Ofcom, which is a communications complaint system. But for me, it was the BBC complaints process. I complained, and it was rejected.
Really?
So I appealed, and it was rejected again. And the final time, I was allowed to appeal to the BBC Trust top committee, and they upheld the complaint. And so I feel that complaint made a difference. Now, it was too late because the programme had gone out, and 2 million people had seen it, and 2 million people would have thought, my God, if acupuncture can do that for a woman having major heart surgery, what can it do for me? So it was too late in a way, but I think it made an impact because a lot of producers in the BBC have a lot of integrity. And sometimes they're pushed to kind of maybe go over the limit, or maybe sometimes exaggerate or sensationalise.
But and also, some of them just don't know.
Yeah, but they could also now say, look, it's really important that we stick to the truth, because if we don't, it's very embarrassing for the BBC and everybody else.
Yeah.
And a second series was made of this programme, and of this series on alternative medicine. And the second series was actually much better. It was much more honest, much more scientific, much more rigorous, much more boring, I should say.
Right.
but the truth doesn't have to be boring, but sometimes the truth about alternative medicine can be boring. So that to me taught me that if you can use the system, and if you keep on appealing, eventually you get the appeal upheld, which was exactly what happened in the libel case as well. So third time lucky guy is me, I suppose.
I mean, some of the stuff that's happening in the UK right now, particularly with homeopathy, is amazing. I mean, the Science and Technology Committee findings in February this year, where they recommended that there should be no more NHS funding for homeopathy, there should be no more research into homeopathy, there should be no more clinical trials. And then the BMA, British Medical Association, came out a couple of months ago and called it witchcraft.
Yeah, and then they had their meeting just a couple of weeks ago, literally, and they voted overwhelmingly that the NHS shouldn't fund homeopathy, that they shouldn't have to necessarily train in homeopathic hospitals, that pharmacies, I think, shouldn't be selling homeopathic remedies, or at least should label them as being placebos.
Yeah.
So and then just at the start of the year there was the mass overdose.
Yeah, the 1023 campaign.
The 1023 campaign, which was great because I think what that showed was that, I expect the learned bodies, the learned institutions, the societies of pharmacists, the societies of biologists, to be complaining and to be outraged about homeopathy, and some of them are, but I don't think they speak loudly enough or to the right people. And so here was a case of people, the Liverpool Skeptics, the London Skeptics,
the Merseyside Skeptics.
That's it, the Merseyside Skeptics, all having a coordinated mass overdose. Now, and it hit the headlines. It got national coverage, and it makes it. I think the biggest misunderstanding about homeopathy is just a type of herbal medicine.
Yeah, herbal. There's nothing in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Not even herbs.
So even if that campaign did nothing else but to say what you are buying is
it's
sugar
not
tablets.
Herbal. Yeah.
And if you want to spend money on very expensive sugar, that's your right to do, but you should do it from an informed position. And now Britain and other groups around the world, I think, went ahead on the same day. Now people, or at least a few more people, know what homeopathy is really about and can make a bit more an informed choice.
Yeah. So one of the things that's happened very recently was David Tredinnick, who put together 4 EDMs, early day motions, into the House of Commons about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so that's an early day motion is just where an MP waves a flag for a particular issue and asks other MPs to rally behind that flag. And if there's an overwhelming number of MPs, then it makes some impact on government, perhaps. So we did exactly the same thing with libel reform last year. We got an EDM.
And that was Evan Harris.
Evan Harris was the prime mover behind that. And thanks to his efforts, it became, I think, the biggest EDM of the year, with a majority of MPs who do sign EDMs backing that. So,
And
here was an EDM,
yeah.
as you say, about homeopathy, advocating homeopathy.
Yeah. But he also, I think he was involved in an EDM for Ben Goldacre, wasn't he?
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, I think it was when... It was something to do with Matthias Rath, but anyway, that's another story. But yeah, so he put together 4 EDMs.
Yeah, I had a very nice little chat with him on the BBC radio programme
Yeah.
just after his EDM came out, because I just think there are cases of people who suffer cancer and who take an alternative route and who sometimes rely wholly on something like homeopathy, and that inevitably ends in tragedy. And one of the EDMs that David Tredinnick put down in Parliament related to a paper about the homeopathic impact on breast cancer cells. And I know this is a paper that you took apart along with other people and have blogged about. And the danger of the EDM is that people say, here's a parliamentarian, somebody who represents us, a figurehead of the nation, saying that this research is really important. And then anybody else who suddenly is confronted by cancer thinks, well, here's an EDM about homeopathic research for cancer cells.
In Parliament.
Yeah. Boots sell homeopathy. The NHS offers homeopathy. There's a homeopath around the corner who says, well, she can treat almost anything. Why don't I approach a homeopath? So it's really endorsing a very, very dangerous message.
But David Tredinnick believes some really strange stuff, Simon. I mean, I heard, because this actually created quite a lot of press, and Adam Rutherford, who writes for Nature, wrote an article about Tredinnick and was describing him as someone who believes that surgeons don't operate under a full moon because blood doesn't clot.
That's right. Yeah, Tredinnick's a crazy guy. By which I mean crazy means has some very, very odd beliefs that run counter to, I think, what everybody here at this conference believes in terms of rationalism and scepticism.
Well, evidence would be nice too,
evidence,
you know.
So we had a big MPs expenses scandal last year in Britain, and I think one of the expenses that David Tredinnick was brought to account on was the fact that he'd spent several £100s on astrology software. It's a very odd beliefs. He really seems to believe there is something up there in the stars that dictates our lives and dictates the rate of blood clotting, or at least that's what the moon does. Sorry, obviously not the stars, that would be absurd. And therefore that operations should be timetabled according to the phases of the moon, perhaps. So this is really... And God, you know, the most depressing thing, it's kind of funny for a while, but then I've just realised, I think he's just been elected to the House of Commons Health Select Committee.
Yes, he has.
He has, hasn't he? Yeah,
yes.
And you just think this is a committee that will be informing Parliament.
Yeah.
And one of the people on that committee is utterly clueless.
Yeah.
And I have no qualms about saying this, because by clueless, I mean somebody who doesn't have a solid understanding of how science works and how medical research works. And that's very clear from the EDMs he's put down, and very clear from the way you've taken those bits of research apart.
But it was also very clear from what he said on your Radio 4 interview, where he clearly can't interpret scientific literature. Even, I mean, that paper, there were lots of problems with it, and many listeners would know about that already. We've talked about it on the show before. But there was absolutely nothing in that paper anywhere that suggested that homeopathy can cure breast cancer. So not only did he misinterpret the paper, he went beyond that and extrapolated to something completely loony. Yeah,
there's a very irritating strand of homeopathic research which looks at the fundamentals of homeopathy. So you'll look at is homeopathically treated water different from normal water when you put it under nuclear magnetic resonance or something, or when you fly x-rays through it, how does it react? Or if we take homeopathic solutions and apply them to single cells, what can we see? And the argument here is, let's find out how homeopathy works. And
Have you been to that website, by the way?
Which one?
HowHomeopathyWorks.com?
No, I didn't realise it.
You have to go there.
Well, I suspect the word quantum appears.
No.
Often.
It's a Skeptics website.
Oh, okay.
The URL is howdoeshomeopathywork.com. You bring it up and it just says...
No, don't spoil it. Don't spoil it. No, I have been there now. I remember now. I have been there. Remind people where to go.
Howdoeshomeopathywork.com.
That's it, exactly. So my argument with these people is, why are you wasting your time doing all this effort on how homeopathy works when the evidence so far says it doesn't work? That's where you need to be putting your research. And when I say your research, I mean, for God's sake, don't let the British government pay for this research, because there are, even within alternative medicine, there are areas that deserve more research money.
Yeah.
And so there are some herbal medicines which we know may be effective. If they are effective, maybe we should put some more money into figuring out how safe they are, or how they can be safely used, or so on. So, how homeopathy works is an utterly irrelevant question when it doesn't seem to work in the first place.
Have you also seen that wiki page? It's a list of all the randomised double-blind trials that have demonstrated the efficacy of homeopathy.
No.
Oh, it's brilliant, Simon. You open it up and there's just tumbleweeds running across the page. Seriously, it's just true. But, I mean, we were talking a little bit before about the Streisand effect, and it's the same thing has kind of happened here with homeopathy to a sense, you know, since all the Science Select Committee passed their findings down and with all the recent stuff. As you say, lots of people now, as a result of 1023 and other things, know that homeopathy is not herbal. There is nothing in it.
Yeah.
And it, you know, I mean...
And I think just on the homeopathy thing, I think that sort of thing, everything you've talked about has happened in the last 6 months. And it looks as though there's been this sudden blossoming of scepticism and investigation and reporting and doctors speaking out and so on. But I think you can trace all of that back to things that have been going on for 3 or 4 years. So, for example, there was a letter sent out by a group of sort of senior academics and doctors and so on to each health trust in Britain, saying, can you justify your spending on homeopathy?
Right.
And as a direct result of that letter, every health trust had to reevaluate, or certainly considered reevaluating spending, and I think there were quite clear cuts in spending. And in turn, that's meant that homeopathic hospitals have had less resources because they've had less referrals. One homeopathic hospital is closed down.
In Kent, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And that's started the ball rolling.
Yeah.
And in parallel, Professor David Colquhoun, who runs the Improbable Science website and blog.
He got all that stuff from Leicestershire.
Yeah, well, he said.
Leicester Uni.
Well, he said. I'm not sure if it was Leicester. I'm pretty sure it wasn't Leicester, but there were various universities offering homeopathic degrees.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Bachelors of Science.
I know. It's so frustrating, isn't it?
But David is one of the most tenacious, dogged, and determined investigators I've ever met. An incredibly decent man. And he started submitting freedom of information requests to these universities, saying, look, I want to see your teaching materials. And bit by bit he managed to get hold of the materials, he managed to put them on his website, he managed to write to vice-chancellors about what their lecturers were teaching. And again, one by one, those courses seem to be closing down. And so these things often start off slowly, and sometimes they just fizzle out. But occasionally you build up such a head of steam that you can actually get somewhere.
Yeah. Well, thanks for talking to us, Simon. I mean, I know that what you went through with the whole BCA thing was awful and stressful, but
it had a happy ending. I've said to a few people here that sometimes these stories don't have a happy ending, and this one seems to have had a happy ending. So that's a huge relief. It's sort of been worthwhile. And if my case happens and I successfully defend myself, that's great. But it still would have cost me a lot of stress, a lot of time, and a lot of money. But if the libel laws change, which is what's on the table now,
right,
then if my case has helped highlight that, and Ben Goldacre's case, and Peter Wilmshurst's case, which is still ongoing, and Henrik Thompson and Professor Lacerda and so many other people. If our cases can help change the law, then I feel that we'll be reassured that it was worth defending our writing. And in particular, as I say, Peter Wilmshurst's case is still ongoing. He's a cardiologist. If he loses his libel battle, he will be destroyed. He'll be bankrupted. So while I'm sort of relieved in my situation, it's still a little bit early to celebrate because Peter's still being hauled through the libel courts.
Well, what can our listeners do to support the libel reform?
Well, people can donate to libel reform. We're still trying to accumulate money to continue the campaign. People can sign up to the petition, libelreform.org. People can donate to Peter Wilmshurst's Defence Fund as well if they feel so moved. If they're doctors and surgeons or interested in cardiology in particular, here is a guy that's standing up for you. And so, there's a role that people can play. Just signing the petition. And if you've signed the petition, get one or two more people to sign up. We're well over 50,000 now. If we can hit 100,000 by the time there's the next parliamentary debate, that will be even more powerful. And I know, obviously, this program's going out around the world. This is a British problem. But I'm sure listeners will be aware that because of the internet, you can write an article in Australia and end up being sued in London. So very embarrassingly, English libel laws have this global effect on crushing free speech.
They call it libel tourism, don't they?
That's right. And London's become known as the libel capital of the world.
Wow.
Which is just not what we want to be known for.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your time today, Simon, and I look forward to the rest of TAM.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to TAM Australia in a few months.
In November,
I look forward to meeting some of the listeners then.
Excellent. Thank you, Simon.
My pleasure.
Are you Canadian? Or more particularly, are you a Vancouverian? Vancouverite? Vancouver... Anyway, if you'll be anywhere near Vancouver on Saturday, November 20th, then listen up. CFI presents The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe and George Hrab live in Vancouver. Dr. Stephen Novella, Bob Novella, Evan Bernstein, Jay Novella, and special guest George Hrab will record a live taping of The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe on Saturday, November 20th, 2010, at the University of British Columbia's Heb Theatre. For information, tickets, and maybe more information, go to www.cficanada.ca.
Every channel all that I do is see oceans of gullible.
It's the new pub, the new Skeptics in the Pub, Sydney Skeptics in the Pub. We're at the City Hotel, the corner of King and Kent Streets, and we've just had a fabulous show by Maynard. Maynard, I thought it went quite well.
Look, I thought it went quite well. The guy presenting it was a bit of a goose. He made no sense. There was a lot of logical fallacies there. But we did mention eyelashes, and one of the barmaids looked like a member of the Human League. And the thing
I saw that.
Yeah, and the barmaid, they don't even know who the Human League is, which makes it even funnier.
Yeah, they wouldn't, would they?
No.
Oh, no.
No. Yeah, but that's okay. In fact, what is your favourite Human League song? Let's get a bit of pop culture into the show here.
Oh, you got me now. My favourite Human League song. To remind me of one.
Well, look, everyone knows Don't You Want Me, Baby?
That's the one, yeah.
But I'm a big fan of Mirror Man because it's like harkening back to a sort of a 60s kind of Motown sound. So I'm a bit of a Mirror Man fan.
I'd have to remind myself. But look, we've got still, I don't know, maybe 50 people here still hanging on, having a drink and enjoying themselves and walking around.
Yeah, and look, people haven't stolen any of my stuff that's on the table over there, which is very nice. And we've been playing some background music, and it's really a very lovely venue. It is a bit odd for everyone to see the screen, but everyone stays quiet, and we have a great time with it.
It was a great time. There's huge leather couches here. There are tables for everybody. I think this place is a hit.
Well, and also, I'm a big fan of the alternative theory of everything, and I was out there talking about World Trade Center 7, I was out there talking about crop circles, and no one has accosted me at the bar yet, Richard.
No one booed you?
No one booed me.
In fact, everyone was in fits of laughter.
Well, look, but at least, and I got the plugs for all my favourite podcasts there. Now, what was your favourite moment of the presentation? What was your favourite video I showed?
The Euro Club.
Yes, that's the golf club that is hollowed out in plastic, and you can pee in it.
Yes.
And it has a little comes with a little modesty curtain which you wear.
So you just look like you're checking out your club.
But in fact, you're weeing inside your club, which is pretty wild. Yeah.
Well, what a great evening it is, and this is the first of many at this new location.
Oh, look, I think we'll be great. I'm looking forward to more here. And now you've had a really not so serious piss-taking one. You can, Dunlop is up for this venue from here, I think, Richard.
It's Dr. Rachael running past Maynard. Oh, and she's still running past, and she's going away. We'll have to catch up with her, though.
I'm going to the bar.
Oh, she's off to the bar, all right.
And look, I saw in Dr. Rachael's handbag there that she actually has a road bag with her.
A road bag?
I do not have a road bag in my bag.
That's the bag you wee in, isn't it?
That's right, and the wee turns into gel, so you can have a little pee-pee in the car if you're caught in traffic.
I detected a theme in your talk tonight, Maynard.
That's right, I was taking the piss the whole time, Richard.
Oh. What an excellent pun.
So, is anything in Canberra rational?
Say it like you mean it.
Click the button.
I'm guessing Brother Peter is Brother Michael's brother.
There's nothing magical or miraculous about that.
We should totally contact NASA.
Yeah, because what I most want to have happen in my life is to be laughed at by NASA. And I believe I'm completely legally covered there.
I've totally lost my train of thought now.
Isn't that amazing?
Rational Capital, the podcast for science and skepticism in and about Canberra.
Whoa!
Join us twice a month for either an in-depth look at issues affecting the national capital or for an open panel discussion with our many guests. Find out more at rationalcapital.com.au.
Wow.
Join us now for Drinking Skeptically in the Think Tank.
Far away. There's a psychic fair coming here, Dr. Rachael. I'm worried now, and welcome to the Think Tank, by the way.
Thank you very much, Richard. Yes, how did you know there's a psychic fair coming here?
Yes, the next Thursday bus will be departing in 5 minutes' time. This bus service will be going to Helston Park, Village Hill and Marrickville. I repeat, this bus service will be going to Helston Park, Village Hill and Marrickville. This bus service will be departing in 5 minutes' time. Thank you.
We haven't had a bus announcement for ages.
No, we haven't, have we?
How about that? And as we know from the top of the show, we're joined in the Think Tank today by not only Dr. Rachael, but our favourite bastard sheep. Hi, Sheepy.
G'day, everybody.
Great to see you along here. Oh, you're fiddling with your new iPhone. Lucky you. And I know that you were with us at the first Skeptics in the pub. The first one for the new pub.
Yeah, it was a fantastic night. It's amazing how much room there was. We had about the same number of people, and the place just felt kind of empty. I was worried that we were down on numbers, but we weren't at all.
We weren't, and I'd say it felt more comfortable.
A lot more comfortable,
more comfortable compared to the old place. Now, we had a great time in the old place, which was the Crown Hotel for many years, but the new place is fabulous.
It's really posh, isn't it?
It is.
It's very plush. Leather couches, antique furniture, and it's actually a mixed match of styles. It's kind of there's 70s lights over the bar, but then there's antique tables and sideboards and leather couches and sort of rustic tables, but it's really very beautiful.
So I hope all the Sydney listeners who haven't come along before to Skeptics in the Pub, and those who have, of course, come along to the next one on the 4th of November. If you think we're a pack of lunatics, you can just leave. You know? I mean, we're not going to trap you in there and try to alter your mind, are we?
No, but we will suggest that you might want to have the $10 steak, Richard. Which
$9.
Is $9 steak.
$9, yeah.
Yeah, and actually drink prices were pretty good too, I noticed. But don't forget, there's a special Skeptics in the Pub on Thursday the 25th of November, which is the night before TAM Oz officially kicks off. And that's where we're going to be squeezing in as many TAM guests and speakers as we possibly can, including SGU, hopefully. And Brian Dunning will be there to dance. Geo will be there. if Eugenie Scott's in town, hopefully she'll be there.
As many as we can get.
Yep. So Simon Singh, possibly.
Yeah.
And, of course, Bastard Sheep will be there.
Well,
he might not be there.
Now, you see, listeners who are thinking, now, that's a great thing to come along to, might also do, on the same night, one of the TAM Fringe events.
That's right. On the same night, there's an open mic night, which is basically anybody can get up and talk. That's happening at a pub that's probably about 1 kilometre away, so not very far.
No, not too
and
far.
If you want to find out the details for that, there's actually a meetup group being organised for all these alternate and side events for TAM Australia. You just go to meetup.com/TAM Australia, and you can find out all the details about the TAM Fringe events. So if you're thinking about organising some side events and you want some skeptics to come along, people to mix with, just sign up to the site, send me a message, I'll set you up and we'll get the meeting organised.
Meetup.com/TAM Australia. Now, I know there will be some people out there who were desperate to get tickets and couldn't because they were sold out or maybe weren't lucky enough to win one in the lottery. But hopefully you'll be able to meet all these wonderful people we're having coming along at one of these fringe events or at Skeptics in the Pub. So don't feel too sad if you've missed out.
Now, I just want to say, Richard, about the TAM Oz Skeptics in the Pub. I'm going to set up a meetup page for that on meetup.com. Not the same one as Bastard Sheep. I have a different meetup. It's a little bit confusing. Search for Sydney Skeptics and you'll find it. Unfortunately, we're going to have to limit numbers for that Skeptics in the Pub because the capacity of the room is only about 150 people. So what I'm going to do is set up a meeting there and then people can RSVP. And once you've RSVP'd, that will ensure that you get a place. So we don't want people to get disappointed. We want to make sure everyone can come, but it's going to have to become first come, first served, unfortunately.
Well, again, if they happen to miss out on that, there's always the open mic. And I'm
sure there's going to be other things as well. So,
and I strongly suspect that some of our guests might even wander up. Some of our special guests will wander up from the Skeptics in the Pub and join the open mic. So I don't think anyone's going to miss out at all. I don't think so. Well, let's get on to some quick announcements before we get on to some interesting stories. I'd just like to remind everybody that our good friends in Victoria at the Victorian Skeptics have been working very hard. And they have a wonderful website, which is vicskeptics.wordpress.com. Check it out, vicskeptics.wordpress.com. And they meet, they have a regular monthly meeting, Skeptics Cafe, third Monday of each month at Linolta Restaurant, which is 140 Lygon Street, Carlton. So check out their website anyway for more details. I was lucky enough to be a guest of the Victorian Skeptics a couple of years back where I gave a talk and it was a fabulous night.
I should also mention, Richard, that the Vic Skeptics are involved in organising George Harab, who's going to be doing a gig in Melbourne after TAM Australia. So if anyone can't make it up to Sydney, he'll be playing on Tuesday the 30th of November at the Clyde Hotel, which is in Carlton in Victoria.
I think I'm going to go to that too.
You are going to that, are you?
Yeah, I wouldn't miss that.
Yeah, well, if people want more information, they should go to the Vic Skeptics website.
The Young Australian Skeptics, I noticed, have information about that too.
Vic Skeptics have it too, because I'm looking at it right now.
Right.
So if you want information about that, that's a free event in Melbourne after TAM Australia. So if you've got enough stamina like you seem to think you will have and you want to go to Melbourne after that, then you can also go down and see Gio in Melbourne.
And as Gio said in his blog, he's also going to be visiting other cities as well. So it's going to be Christchurch, Wellington, most likely. There's possibly also a few other states in Australia too. So keep your ears out. The information's going to be coming soon on Geologic.
And it's the Styrofoam tour, right, Sheepy?
Yes, the Styrofoam. Now, a couple of episodes ago, we played a promotion for Aaron's World podcast, the podcast done by a great little guy all about dinosaurs. So that's AARON_S World podcast. He even has a fan page on Facebook. Great. A junior podcaster all about dinosaurs. Now, also, I'd like to announce that there's a new meetup for social skeptics in Canberra. Skeptics in the Pub in Canberra. Sunday, October the 17th, King O'Malley's Irish Pub, 131 the City Walk. And the Canberra folks meet on the third Sunday of the month. Now, you and I went down to Canberra a couple of months ago, Rachel, and we gave our talks down there. That was great.
Yes, we did. It was.
And last week, or the week before, we went to Newcastle to give our talks.
Yes, we did.
And what I'm getting at, Rachel, you see, you're following...
What are you getting at?
This is my reasoning, that you and I love going out and doing our talks, so we're sending out a big announcement that if any group around Australia, anywhere in Australia, want Rachel and I to come and do our talks, I give a talk on general skepticism. Dr. Rachel does a talk called Dr. Rachel Reports. The whole show goes for about 2 hours. We've had great crowds turn up when we do this talk. Contact us. We'd love to come and visit your organisation, your city, your club, whatever it is. All we ask is really that you cover our costs, which aren't that great. It's really transportation and accommodation and nomming food.
I was going to say noms.
You were waiting for that, weren't you?
Yeah, and we also do Mystery Investigators, if anyone's interested in.
Yeah, we do our Mystery Investigators show for schools, if any teachers...
And for big kids, too.
And for big kids, for anybody, really.
Yeah.
So you can contact us via the contact link on the Skeptic Zone website, skepticzone.tv, and find out more. We'd love to come and visit and give our talks. They're great fun, and I think everyone learns a lot. Oh, now I must make an announcement here. Last week I gave out this great telephone number for people in the US to ring and leave us a voicemail, and it was working fine. Then I got a message today or the other day saying from drop.io that they've discontinued the service. Sorry about that. Fail. Sorry, all those people. I'm going to try and get another one going so you can ring up and leave us a message. Not impressed. Not impressed at all. What I am impressed about, and I think Dr. H is impressed about, and this isn't an ad, this is just the way we feel, that when we fly to the States, we choose to fly with
Delta Airlines.
Delta Airlines, and they give us a great flight, good entertainment, and you and I both belong to their Air Points programming.
Look, can I just say, I want to be a Delta shill, Richard.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, if they pay for me to fly, I will shill them wherever I go. No, I'm flying with them tomorrow morning, and I'm very impressed with Delta. Even though we've only done 2 trips on our miles, Delta miles, we've been upgraded to silver medallion flyers, and they've upgraded me to first class on one of my legs
in the States,
internally.
Right? Yeah. Well,
tomorrow.
When I was in the States a few months ago, I was in one of my legs. I got upgraded too, and I thought this is pretty damn good.
That sounds funny. My leg was upgraded.
Yes, my leg was upgraded. The rest of me was in economy. But my leg told me that it was quite nice up there.
Really? So, Delta, I want to be a shill. Send me some tickets.
Me too. No, seriously, good. Thank you, Delta. We have a good time with Delta. Otherwise, we wouldn't fly with them.
No, I've been to the States. Well, we'll have gone 3 times this year, and every time I've flown with Delta, and only once did they lose my bag.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
No, it is, actually,
I reckon. Not bad. So, cheers to Delta. And finally, last announcement from me at the moment. I can't wait to get these. I cannot wait. I've ordered 10 placebo bands.
Oh, these are very, very funny, aren't they?
They're surprisingly similar to Power Balance bracelets, and you can order your placebo bands, which are made at the same place as Power Balance, as far as I know. They say placebo instead of Power Balance.
Placebo, the power of belief, don't they?
Yeah, there's 5 different colours. You can order those from www.skepticalbros.com/placebo-bands, and they're only $2, as opposed to what I saw in the shop just yesterday, $60.
But Richard, how can they sell them for only $2?
Because they hardly cost anything to make, Rachel.
Yeah, because they cost something like 50 cents or $1.50 to make.
Whatever.
Yeah. I know the guys who run this blog and who got them made, and they're not making a profit from this, so they're selling them at cost. So, and they look fantastic, don't they? Really.
So, cheers, Tom, in WA. I can't wait to get mine. Now, as Brian Dunning pointed out, when you and I were wearing our real Power Balance around, he said, it's probably not such a good idea because, it looks like you're using them, but I'll be happy to wear my placebo band.
Yeah, I want to get some too, and I'd be interested to see how long it takes before somebody asks me what they are, because if you have a look on the website, skepticbros.org, what is it? .com,
Yeah.
you'll see that the placebo is written in white and quite big, so it'd be quite easy to see it, unlike the sort of small writing that the Power Balance has. So it'd be interesting to see if anyone asks about it.
Anyway, yes, I've ordered mine. I've ordered 10, in fact, so I can't wait to receive those. Hell, was that $2
10,
each?
Richard?
Yeah, I've ordered 10.
That's going to increase your strength by 5,000%, isn't it?
Oh, it is. I can't wait for that.
Not just 500?
I'll need it to get through TAM Australia, I think. I will. Sheepy, what do you have for us?
Well, just been announced that there's potential cuts coming to science in the UK. A lot of people have been very upset about this, and there's actually some protests happening this Saturday for all the UK listeners. So if you want to find out where they are, what you can do to help out, simply go to scienceisvital.org.uk. We've got all the details there. There's a petition that you can sign as well, and this is very important for the country because England's just had 2 Nobel Prizes awarded this year. So if they cut science funding, we're not going to have things like that happen in the future. It's horrible what's happening.
Yeah, I thought this was really excruciating, but also quite hilarious that in the same week that 2 Nobel Prizes were awarded, one in for carbon chemistry in physics and one in IVF for medicine, to British researchers, that there was discussion about the potential to cut the science research budget in the UK. It's just preposterous, and the timing just seems so out of whack. But there's going to be lots of very big protests coming up. Now, I noticed also that listeners may remember when the Science and Technology Committee did their report into homeopathy that's being funded by the NHS, the National Health Service. And despite the fact that the report came back as very damning and that there was not sufficient evidence to support the efficacy of homeopathy, the government neglected to cut funding. They decided to keep funding, and part of the main reason for that was because the patients, they said, wanted it and they should have a choice. Now, the argument from many of us was, well, it's not that they won't be able to get it, they just won't have it paid for by the public purse. But in any case, it's still being funded to the tune of about $4 million a year. Now, some people say, well, that's not very much of the NHS budget. It's only a small percentage, which I'm sure it is. But I tell you what, that's a nice little amount of money to run a really good research project in science. You know, that's what, in Australia, that would cover what's called a program grant. And that's usually consists of about 4 or 5 big institutions. They all share between about $5 million over about 5 years. And that runs 5 big research projects across 5 different institutions for 5 years in Australia.
And which will lead to real scientific advance.
Yeah. So the fact that 2 Nobels have just been awarded to British scientists, the fact that the NHS is still spending $4 million on homeopathy, and that if science gets cut, this $4 million is going down the drain, you know, which it is, because it's water and sugar, is just absolutely ridiculous. You know, I mean, science grants in this country are very small and very, very difficult to get. And even if you do get one from the NHMRC, which is the big government funding body, you might be lucky to get $300,000 for 3 years. We're talking peanuts, you know, it's not much money when you're trying to run research, and consumables are expensive and equipment is expensive, and so I just think it's preposterous that they're talking about cutting funding and then spending $4 million on magic sugar water.
Well, that's it. I think if people in the UK want to spend their money on sugar and water, then they should buy it themselves.
Sure.
Well, supermarket.
Yeah, I don't object to them having it, sure, but the public purse shouldn't pay for it.
Sugar and water. No wonder a lot of people are now simply referring to it as witchcraft. It is.
The British Medical Association referred to it as witchcraft.
I think it's a great thing to do because it might as well be. I mean, they do magic spells over it and all sorts of things.
Except that it offends witches because I think they actually use... No, it's true, because I think they actually use stuff. An eye of a newt is real, right? And, you know, a hair of a wolf or something...
And all the Harry Potter fans will be up in arms about it as well.
Yeah, because...
Harry Potter?
Because witchcraft uses tangible ingredients, doesn't it? I don't know, I'm not a witch, but I believe that they actually don't just make it up.
Just imagine the angry emails now.
Any witches listening, if you could let us know the error of our ways, we'd be most grateful. And send your reply via bat.
Can I just follow up on that story? I mentioned the Nobel Prizes were awarded this week, Richard, and the Nobel for Medicine went to Dr. Robert Edwards, who was the pioneer of IVF, or in vitro fertilisation. And guess who's cranky about that? Any ideas? Anyone want to guess?
Why would anyone be cranky about that? It's given people life, for example. I think that's a wonderful thing. And it's given hundreds of... probably thousands now of couples out there who couldn't have a baby any other way, the chance to have a family. I mean, what's not to like about it?
Well, in fact, the world's first test tube baby was created in 1978, and since then, IVF has helped to create 4 million babies.
What?
That's
really?
What I'm reading in front of me.
Wow.
And it's, as you say, IVF has changed the lives of millions of infertile couples who could not have children. And the committee said that Professor Edwards' work had brought joy to infertile people all over the world, and his achievements have made it possible to treat infertility, a medical condition afflicting a large proportion of humanity, and that's more than 10% of couples worldwide. So some people have been made very happy by this technique and by this pioneering method of medicine, but the Vatican is pretty annoyed.
The Vatican? I thought they always claimed to be pro-life.
No. Well, I suppose so, but they made a comment about this award and said that giving it to Professor Edwards was completely out of place because it went against all Christian teaching on procreation.
Now, seriously, do people still take the Vatican seriously? I guess they do.
Well, according to the information I've got here, spokesman Monsignor Ignacio Crexel de Polo, try saying that, actually had a few drinks, said that IVF had led to incomprehensible situations like children born from grandmothers and mothers for hire.
Yeah, I can't comprehend that.
Yeah, he expressed his horror at the great number of frozen embryos around the world, which at best are waiting to be transferred to wombs, but will most probably end up being abandoned or dying. And now the current Pope, Pope Benedict, he believes that IVF is morally wrong because it replaces the natural sexual union between husband and wife.
Yeah, he'd know a lot about that.
Well, that's a good point. But we're talking about couples that can't conceive naturally. That's the people that are using this. It's not people that just can't be bothered shagging, I mean...
Yeah.
So, yeah, the Vatican's particularly pissed off about this Nobel. No surprises there, really.
I must admit I'm surprised.
How are you?
I am. This is my surprise look.
Can you pick that look, please, James?
No, don't twit that, James. It's all right. That wasn't my best look. But you have some more information for us, I see.
Yes, one more thing is a lot of people have been excited about Bad Universe, which is currently being produced by Phil Plait. He's released 2 episodes so far of it.
Have you seen the first one?
I have. The first one was awesome.
Yeah.
And you guys were actually on a flight at the time too, weren't you?
Yeah, we were
flying out of Sydney just as it was being destroyed.
Yes.
Yeah, we were.
Anyway, I contacted Discovery Channel in Australia to find out if they've got any plans to air it. And they emailed me back saying that this is set for an early 2011 premiere. That is quoted directly from them, so everybody who's got Foxtel, keep your eyes open on the guides and let us know when it is.
I'm glad it's coming out here on pay TV, but I really hope it makes one of the free-to-air channels.
Oh, look, it probably will, because now that we've got all those new free-to-air channels, there's a new channel in Australia now called 7Mate, and it's supposed to be a blokey channel, and they like blowing up stuff, so surely it would appear on one of those free-to-air channels.
Yeah, well, I tried to contact SBS and the ABC, but I haven't heard back from any of them as yet, so I'll try again in the future.
We'll put the hard word on... Maynard.
Maynard.
It's a pity. Maynard couldn't be with us tonight. That's a pity. And we'll also put the hard work on our good friend from the Catalyst show, Dr. Paul Willis.
Ah, yeah. That
who's going to be the MC at TAM, by the way.
That's right. He is, Richard. He is, yeah. So many of our listeners would be aware that there's almost really there's a whooping cough epidemic in Australia at the moment. There has been for a while, and of course there's one that's been followed quite closely in California, where I think we're sadly up to about our 8th death now.
Oh, really?
I think so, yeah.
No.
Is it 8 or 9?
I think it's 8.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Now, of course, recently in Adelaide, a 5-week-old baby passed away from whooping cough, and I was actually on radio talking about that. We should play that segment one day on the Zone.
We'll find it, yeah.
Now, this week, a doctor was diagnosed with whooping cough who works at the Women's and Children's Hospital in Adelaide, and this has meant that all the patients that he or she came in contact while she or she was infective have had to be contacted, and some of them have been given antibiotics as a precaution. But it's thought that maybe up to 60 people may have been come into contact with him and may be at risk of contracting the disease. So this is pretty serious because it is the Women's and Children's Hospital, which means that there are young children.
A lot of vulnerable, sick people there.
Vulnerable, sick people and children under the, below the age where they've been vaccinated. So, potentially this could be, it's a bit of a worry. Of course, they're getting antibiotics, but that doesn't provide a cure for whooping cough. That's simply to stop the spread of the bacteria. So once you've got it, you've got it. There's not much that you can do. You just have to stick out the symptoms, which obviously can be pretty bad.
As you've described on the show before, the symptoms of whooping cough are particularly unpleasant.
Exactly, yeah. So there has been, for a number of almost over 12 months now, a call by people like us and also the McCaffreys for the government to offer free booster shots, and also, more importantly, an education campaign for parents, because many people don't know, and in many of the stories that have actually talked about this exposure in Adelaide, they fail to mention that this vaccine has a lifespan of about 8 to 10 years. So many of these people, and maybe this doctor, him or herself, maybe hadn't had a booster.
Well, this is a very good point to remind everybody, of course, and we did... you did that fabulous interview a couple of weeks ago in Atlanta.
From DragonCon, yeah.
DragonCon
the
about
Skeptic vaccine clinic.
Booster, which I put on the feed as a video, of course. And also, about 2 years back on the show, I went to a GP and I had my whooping cough booster because I'm the uncle of quite young kids. So, yeah, it's always a good time to remind people that you need to have a booster, especially if you're going to be working with or around young children.
Yeah, things have actually gotten so bad at the moment that I read on the ABC today itself that Australia has actually released public health announcements for parents of young children not to actually take their kids to populated places that have air conditioning.
Yeah.
So malls, libraries, shopping centres, etc., they've been asked to keep your kids away from places like that. That's just how bad things have gotten.
It's criminal, isn't it?
It's funny though, isn't it, Richard? Because I think we know somebody who doesn't think that you die from whooping cough, don't we?
We do.
Yeah. Can we just play that little excerpt from the program that she spoke about whooping cough a number of years ago?
Oh yes, I'll play that right now.
My mother used to put me with all the neighborhood kids when they got these diseases, so I'd get them and get them over with and be immune. And there was no fear. There was no worry about it. We just got them. We were supposed to get them, and we did. And we were healthier for them. Now, we have a medical community that's saying if you get measles, if you get whooping cough, you're going to die from it. Well, where is the information from that? You didn't die from it 30 years ago, and you're not going to die from it today.
Yeah, so, I mean, in that little soundbite, and I've played that quite a few times, and I put it up on a Facebook page a couple of weeks ago, it just makes her look more and more like, I don't know, would you say a numpty?
Yeah,
I mean,
a goose.
You didn't die from it 30 years ago, and you're not going to die from it. Where's the information for that?
I didn't know. Did I say that?
I don't believe I did. Yeah.
As they say on the radio now, if they want to insult someone, they say, "What a pelican."
What?
Yeah.
What do you want?
They say, "You pelican."
They do not.
They do.
What are you talking about?
Say that.
They say that on Talkback Radio. It's instead of insulting someone and calling them something very rude, you can just say, "You pelican."
Okay, then. Meryl Dorey is a pelican.
There you go.
Yeah. Anyway, and just quickly, before we finish up, this is sort of connected. Paul Offit's new book is coming out very soon. Dr. Paul Offit. Oh, sorry, Dr. Prophet.
Prophet.
As the anti-vaxxers like to call him. His book is called Deadly Choices, How the Anti-Vaccine Movement Threatens Us All. You can pre-order it now on Amazon, but I'm not. I think it's not coming out for a few months. Meryl posted it on her Facebook page last week and asked all of her readers to go and place comments on the discussion on Amazon, which of course they all did. So it's all full of anti-vaxxers saying that he's a criminal because he made $25 million from developing the rotavirus vaccine, blah-de-blah. Yeah, Richard's shaking his head and rolling his eyes. You know the spiel of the screen.
I've heard it, yeah.
So if anyone wants to have a look at that and maybe add some comments, go to Amazon, look for his book, and you can pre-order it now.
That's what you should do. Before we leave the think tank, big shout out to a guy who made it along to Skeptics in the pub, and it was really great that he did. Steve and his wonderful dog, Casey.
Yeah.
So I know Steve's a fan of the show, and he was such a nice bloke, and we gave him a lift home afterwards. So thanks, Steve, for making the effort. And I know it's not a particularly easy effort for you to come along, but that was fabulous. And we certainly hope that you can join us again.
Yeah, well, I hope lots of people come to the new pub. It's a really beautiful venue. It's much prettier than the last one.
So
And the noms are awesome.
So Sydney people, seriously, go to meetup.com and do a search for Sydney Skeptics. Join up and you won't be sorry you did. And I'm not sorry I came along here tonight. I had a wonderful dinner. Thank you very much for coming along, Dr. Rachael.
Thanks very much, Richard, and I'll be on a plane tomorrow morning, so I'll see you, I don't know.
Well, I hope you send us a report from America.
Yeah, I'll try to do that. Well, I'm going to be doing some... the talks I'm going to be listening to are about MND, as I mentioned in the intro, and also some people have heard me talk about the connection between the Guam bats and ALS. So,
but you've got a way of going to these conventions and still doing skeptical interviews.
Well, that's true, because last year when I went to this same conference in Miami, I ended up at Carl Sagan Day at Broward College in Fort Lauderdale, interviewing DJ Grothy, Randy and Phil Plate, and Phil Plate's mum.
You did?
So you never know.
You never know. Thank you, James, for coming along once again.
Thanks very much for having me.
But you must bring your little bastard sheep next time.
Okay, fine.
All right. And, well, until our next think tank, whenever that may be, cheers.
Yeah, right, guys. I was talking to Richard Saunders the other day.
All right.
He said if we record a trailer for our podcast, Skeptics with a K, he'd play it on their show.
Well, that's nice of him. That's very generous.
It's pretty good. I'm not sure what we could do, though. I mean...
Well, I suppose you tell people what the show's about.
But it's basically just this.
Yeah, but we talk about science and skepticism and things.
That's true. I suppose you mentioned the website address.
What, Merseyside.skeptics.org.uk?
Yeah, or just like search us on iTunes. Oh, and then we could end with like a big song like The Skeptics with a K podcast.
No. Don't do that.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone. Now, I'm not sure what we have next week, but I know one thing. Dr. Rachael won't be here. Oh, no. Dr. Rachael, where will you be?
I'll be in Jackson Hole next week in Wyoming at a work conference, Richard. Not a skeptical conference this time.
Not a skeptical conference?
No. It's going to...
non-skeptical conferences actually exist?
Yes, they do. So this will be my third trip to the States this year, and my last, I think, for 2010. I'm going to Wyoming to do a week's worth of conference, which is going to be on motor neuron disease, which is what my work is focusing on at the moment.
Fantastic.
It's a little sort of collection of a small number of researchers who come together from all over the world and all have different specialties and are applying all different arms of their skills to trying to solve the problem of motor neuron disease, or ALS as it's known in the States, or Lou Gehrig's. amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. Try saying that after a few drinks in the think tank. And then I'm staying on for a week to do some work in the lab of Dr. Paul Cox.
But you will be doing a little bit of skeptical activities over there.
I actually am going to be doing a talk in Salt Lake City on the 23rd of October. That's Saturday night. If you're listening, Salt Lake City Skeptics, get in touch because I haven't heard from you guys. So I booked my flight. So I've actually had a few people email and ask me for more details. I don't have any more details yet. So I'm hoping that the Salt Lake City Skeptics get back to me and I can let everybody know where I'm going to be. But I will be at this time, 23rd of October in Salt Lake City.
How exciting. Well, thank you, Dr. H. Thank you, Master Chief, for being involved with the Skeptic Zone today. And until next week, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for comments, contacts, and extra video reports.
The Skeptic Zone.